Today, we stand at a critical juncture in the unfolding story of global politics, a story where technology, power, and conflict intersect in ways that redefine the balance of the modern world. Just recently, Yemen launched a drone strike targeting an Israeli vessel in the strategically vital waters of the Red Sea. This is not a simple act of warfare. It is a seismic statement in the theater of international relations. What we have witnessed is more than an isolated incident. It is a clear signal that the old rules of engagement are shifting and the world must pay attention. Yemen's recent drone strike on an Israeli vessel in the Red Sea is not merely a headline. It is a defining moment that changes the way we must understand maritime conflict in the modern era. At first glance, the incident might appear as just another skirmish in the long history of Middle Eastern hostilities. But when we examine the layers beneath, we see a complex event with immediate and far-reaching implications. The attack was precise, well coordinated, and technologically advanced, signaling that Yemen has moved beyond conventional forms of warfare. This was not a random act of aggression. It was a calculated maneuver designed to send a clear message. The vessel struck was not just a target of opportunity. It was a symbol of naval strength, representing both Israel's military reach and its ability to project power far from its own shores. Striking such a target demands precision, planning, and intelligence, hallmarks of a significant tactical operation. Within hours of the attack, the incident became a focal point for global news outlets, military analysts, and political commentators. This is where the first hook emerges. Yemen's action was not intended solely for the battlefield. It was a message broadcast to the world. A drone strike of this scale is inherently symbolic. It conveys to allies, adversaries, and neutral observers alike that the nature of conflict is changing, that traditional naval supremacy can be challenged, and that smaller actors now have tools to level the playing field in ways that were previously unthinkable. For Israel, a nation that has relied on advanced naval capabilities as part of its defense strategy, this attack was an alarm bell, a clear indication that the rules of engagement in the region are shifting. The damage caused to the vessel was substantial, and the disruption of operations in that area of the Red Sea sent immediate shockwaves through the shipping industry. This is not simply a military matter. It is a commercial crisis. The Red Sea is one of the world's most vital maritime corridors, carrying enormous volumes of cargo and energy resources. The very fact that a single strike could cause such disruption reveals the vulnerability of global trade routes to asymmetric threats. This brings us to another hook. The implications of this incident extend far beyond military strategy. The economic consequences ripple across continents, affecting supply chains, shipping costs, and global energy prices. Yemen's action, therefore, touches not only geopolitics but also the stability of the global economy. The immediacy of the strike's impact was visible in the rapid response it provoked. Israel immediately deployed naval assets to secure the surrounding waters, and allied nations began discussions about increased surveillance and defense cooperation in the region. This rapid escalation shows how one incident can quickly alter military postures and strategic calculations. The drone strike became not just a physical attack, but a strategic lever, a moment that could redefine how nations approach maritime defense and security in contested waters. What makes this moment even more striking is the element of surprise. The attack demonstrates that Yemen possesses not only the technological capability to mount such an operation, but also the intelligence capacity to select high-value targets with precision. This is a shift from previous patterns of drone warfare, where strikes tended to be more opportunistic or symbolic. Here, the target selection and execution were deliberate, calculated, and highly effective. This raises urgent questions about intelligence sharing, defensive readiness, and the evolving nature of naval threats. This is why the incident is a turning point. It forces policymakers, military planners, and analysts to confront the reality that maritime conflict in the 21st century will increasingly involve drones, cyber elements, and asymmetric tactics. Yemen's strike against the Israeli vessel is not an isolated occurrence. It is a glimpse into the future of warfare where speed, precision, and technological innovation can dramatically alter the balance of power. The attack in the Red Sea is a stark reminder that conflict is no longer confined to traditional battlefields, and that in today's interconnected world, a single act of aggression can reverberate across global politics, trade, and security. This event demands not just analysis, but deep strategic thinking. Yemen's drone strike is a case study in how modern conflict unfolds, one that will be studied by military academies, policymakers, and geopolitical strategists for years to come. The implications are clear. The age of uncontested naval dominance is over, and the world must adapt to a new reality where precision strikes from afar can disrupt even the most powerful forces. Yemen's action was not just an attack, it was a wake-up call. The Yemen drone strike against an Israeli ship marks more than an escalation in hostilities. It represents a fundamental transformation in the nature of warfare itself. In the past, naval power depended largely on physical presence, fleets of ships, aircraft carriers, and submarines patrolling strategic waters. Today, however, the battlefield is no longer defined by sheer size or traditional naval dominance. The rise of drone warfare, precision-guided, remotely operated, and capable of striking with minimal warning, has introduced a disruptive element that changes the calculus for every nation that relies on maritime security. Yemen's ability to deploy such a strike underscores a shift in power dynamics where technology allows smaller actors to confront much larger powers without engaging in conventional naval battle. This is not just a tactical change, it is a strategic evolution. This moment forces us to reconsider what naval supremacy means in the modern era. The hook here is clear: traditional measures of strength, the size of the fleet, the number of warships, the sophistication of armor, no longer guarantee control of the seas. A single drone equipped with advanced targeting systems can bypass entire defense perimeters and inflict significant damage without warning. Yemen's operation demonstrates how asymmetric warfare has become an effective tool for leveling the playing field. This is an unsettling truth for established naval powers. The balance of power is no longer determined solely by resources and manpower. It now hinges on technological innovation, intelligence capabilities, and adaptability. This incident is a clear example of how drones have shifted the paradigm of military engagement. They are not only cost-effective compared to deploying entire fleets, but also strategically flexible. Drones can be launched covertly, operated remotely, and adjusted in real time to changing conditions. This capability allows nations or groups without large-scale naval infrastructure to engage in high-impact operations with precision and efficiency. Yemen's drone strike shows that modern warfare is no longer confined to direct confrontations. It can occur in stealth, with precision, and without the heavy footprint of traditional forces. This changes how we think about deterrence and defense. Here is another hook: the introduction of drone technology in maritime warfare erases old boundaries. It creates a new reality where geography, size, and even proximity to a target are less significant than technological capability. Yemen's ability to execute such a strike reflects a broader global trend: the democratization of advanced military technology. Drones, once the domain of superpowers are now accessible to smaller nations and even non-state actors. This means that maritime conflict is no longer an exclusive arena for powerful navies. Every nation with access to such technology can potentially project force across contested waters. The implications extend far beyond the Red Sea. This is a wake-up call to naval strategists worldwide. The rules of engagement have changed. Defense strategies must evolve to counter the stealth and precision of drone warfare. Traditional naval formations and defense systems designed for conventional threats may not be adequate against small, fast, and difficult to detect drone units. Yemen's strike underscores the urgency of adapting maritime defense to a new reality where the threat can emerge from unexpected quarters. The hook lies in the uncertainty it creates. No naval power, regardless of size, can claim immunity from this kind of attack. Moreover, Yemen's strike illustrates how technology shifts not only tactics, but also strategic thinking. It forces military planners to incorporate cyber capabilities, advanced detection systems, and adaptive defense strategies. The battlefield is now defined by integration, drones, cyber warfare, electronic countermeasures, and real-time intelligence sharing must work together to secure naval dominance. This incident is a case study in how asymmetric warfare works, combining technological innovation with calculated strategy. Yemen's ability to strike with such precision exposes a vulnerability that has profound implications for the future of naval power. The hook here is unsettling for established powers. Naval superiority can no longer be taken for granted. The rules of the game have changed, and the stakes are higher than ever before. In this emerging era, maritime security will depend not just on ships and weapons, but on adaptability, innovation, and a willingness to rethink the fundamentals of naval defense. Yemen's strike is a warning that the nature of naval warfare has transformed, and those who ignore this reality do so at their own peril. Yemen's drone strike against an Israeli ship is not just a tactical military action. It is a deliberate geopolitical statement with consequences that stretch far beyond the immediate battlefield. The operation represents a calculated move in a much larger game, one where symbolism and signaling matter as much as physical damage. This was not an isolated act of violence. It was a message designed to disrupt assumptions, provoke reaction, and reshape perceptions of power in the Middle East. The hook here is undeniable. This strike is as much a communication as it is a confrontation. Yemen is telling the world, and especially Israel, that maritime dominance is no longer absolute, and that technological innovation can be used to challenge even the most powerful forces. This strike should be understood within the broader context of Middle Eastern geopolitics. Israel, a nation with significant military capabilities, has historically relied on its technological superiority to deter aggression. Yemen's action disrupts this equation. The targeting of an Israeli vessel in the Red Sea, one of the most strategically significant waterways in the world, is a calculated challenge to Israel's naval presence. It sends a signal to regional powers that control over the seas is contested and that new actors are willing and able to project force. This is not simply about Yemen and Israel. It is about the shifting dynamics of power in a region already marked by tension, rivalry, and competing strategic interests. The hook here lies in the broader message. Yemen's strike is both a tactical success and a symbolic challenge. It conveys that asymmetric warfare, in this case, drone technology, is now a central element in the geopolitical landscape. This transforms the way nations approach not only military engagement, but diplomacy itself. When one nation can project power into contested waters with minimal warning, the strategic assumptions of others must change. This incident forces a reevaluation of deterrence and power projection. making clear that technological innovation can overturn established military hierarchies. Yemen's strike is not a minor incident. It is a statement that the rules of engagement are changing. The ripple effects extend beyond military calculations into the realm of alliance politics. Israel's response, strengthening naval patrols, engaging allies, and signaling readiness for further confrontation, reflects an awareness that this strike changes the strategic balance. The hook here is in the reaction itself. Yemen's action forces other nations to reconsider their own roles in maritime security. For allies of Israel, particularly those dependent on stable shipping lanes through the Red Sea, the incident raises urgent questions about collective defense and cooperation. Yemen's strike, therefore, is not just a matter of bilateral conflict, it is a catalyst for potential realignments in regional security partnerships. From an analytical perspective, Yemen's strike also reframes the concept of power projection. Traditionally, naval dominance was about the ability to control shipping lanes, enforce blockades, and deter aggression through visible force. The strike demonstrates that power projection can now be achieved through stealth, precision, and innovation. The hook here is unsettling. The balance of power no longer rests solely on fleets and bases, but increasingly on technology and the ability to strike unexpectedly. This changes the very nature of maritime strategy. No longer can naval superiority be taken for granted. Instead, it must be constantly defended against unconventional threats. Yemen's strike also sends a message beyond the immediate parties involved. It signals to other nations in the Middle East, and beyond that, asymmetric tactics can alter strategic realities. This has implications for the way conflicts will be fought in the future. The hook is in the precedent it sets aside. Once such tactics are proven effective, they will be studied, replicated, and possibly adapted by others. This means Yemen's strike is not only a moment of confrontation, but potentially a turning point in the evolution of modern warfare. Ultimately, the geopolitical significance of this strike lies in its capacity to disrupt assumptions about security and power. Yemen has demonstrated that in the age of drone warfare, control over strategic spaces is contested not only by fleets and alliances, but by technology and strategic innovation. The hook is unavoidable. The Middle East has entered a new era of maritime competition, one where the rules are being rewritten, and Yemen's drone strike is a bold declaration that the future of conflict will not be decided solely by conventional forces. Following the drone strike by Yemen on the Israeli vessel, the immediate reaction was swift, decisive, and telling of the new realities of modern conflict. Israel, faced with a direct attack on its maritime capabilities, responded with heightened security measures, deploying naval assets and increasing patrols across critical waterways in the Red Sea. The speed and scale of this response reveals not only the seriousness of the incident, but also how such attacks can quickly reshape military posture and trigger a cascade of strategic adjustments. The hook here is in the speed of escalation. One precise act of aggression transformed a moment of tension into a broader security crisis. This escalation is not confined to Israel alone. The Red Sea is one of the most important maritime arteries in the world, a corridor through which a significant percentage of global trade flows, including vital energy supplies. This makes it a point of intense strategic interest for multiple nations, not only in the Middle East, but across the globe. When Yemen carried out this strike, it was not simply engaging Israel, it was introducing a variable that affects the entire region's maritime security calculus. The hook lies in the interconnectedness of today's world. An incident in one location can ripple outward, forcing distant nations to rethink strategies, alliances, and even trade priorities. Israel's call for increased international cooperation following the strike underscores another layer of this escalation. The attack revealed vulnerabilities not only in Israel's naval operations, but in the broader mechanisms that secure global maritime trade. This has significant implications for regional cooperation and international diplomacy. The hook is in the transformation of the strike from a military event into a diplomatic challenge. Israel is seeking broader engagement, signaling that maritime security in the Red Sea is now a shared responsibility. This shift could lead to increased naval presence by allied nations, expanded intelligence sharing agreements, and coordinated patrols, a reshaping of both defense posture and geopolitical alignment. The escalation also highlights the vulnerability of critical global infrastructure to asymmetric tactics. Drone warfare, as Yemen demonstrated, can bypass traditional defense layers, striking with precision and without warning. This forces nations to confront uncomfortable truths. Advanced navies are not immune to disruption, and securing maritime corridors requires innovation beyond conventional fleet deployments. The hook here is in the vulnerability itself, an unsettling reminder that no amount of military power can guarantee absolute security in the age of drones and precision strikes. This reality is likely to drive significant changes in naval doctrine, threat detection, and defensive technology. Another dimension of escalation emerges in the political arena. Yemen's drone strike has heightened tensions not just between Yemen and Israel, but across the Middle East. Allies of Israel may feel compelled to take a firmer stance, while adversaries could view the strike as a demonstration of capability worth replicating. The hook lies in the political contagion effect. One incident can shift the regional balance, embolden certain actors, and provoke a cycle of retaliation and counter-retaliation. This is the nature of modern conflict. It rarely remains contained, and escalation often becomes exponential. Economic stakes are equally affected. The Red Sea is a lifeline for global commerce, and instability in these waters threatens not only military interests, but the global economy itself. The hook here is in the potential for ripple effects. Disruptions in shipping lanes can influence fuel prices, global supply chains, and trade flows, creating economic consequences far beyond the immediate theater of conflict. This transforms what might appear to be a regional confrontation into a matter of global concern. Finally, Israel's escalation in response to Yemen's attack sends a message to the wider world. Maritime conflict now has a new dimension, one that requires rapid adaptation. The hook lies in the demonstration that responses to such attacks will not be limited to defensive measures, but will inevitably involve strategic recalibration at multiple levels: military, diplomatic, and economic. This incident has shown that a single drone strike can trigger a chain reaction that redefines regional security, forces shifts in alliance structures, and alters the trajectory of modern warfare. The Yemen drone strike against an Israeli vessel carries implications far beyond the military sphere. It is a profound disruption to the global economic order. The Red Sea is not just a strategic corridor for military operations, it is one of the most critical arteries of international trade. Roughly 10% of the world's trade passes through this narrow body of water, including vast quantities of oil, liquefied natural gas, and essential goods. Yemen's action did not merely damage a ship, it introduced a direct threat to the stability of one of the world's busiest maritime trade routes. The hook here is clear. A single targeted drone strike has the potential to reverberate across global markets, altering trade flows and economic stability in unpredictable ways. The strategic importance of the Red Sea means that any disruption resonates globally. Shipping companies, Ports and logistics firms now face heightened uncertainty, which can quickly translate into increased costs. The insurance premiums for maritime transport through this corridor could rise sharply, creating a ripple effect across global trade. The hook lies in the economic vulnerability exposed. This is not a distant regional issue, but one with direct consequences for supply chains in Europe, Asia, and beyond. Yemen's attack illustrates that modern warfare, especially asymmetric tactics like drone strikes, can intersect with global commerce in ways that magnify their impact far beyond the battlefield. Energy markets, too, are directly affected. The Red Sea is a vital route for the transit of oil and gas, and any disruption threatens to influence global energy prices. Even temporary instability can cause fluctuations in fuel costs, impacting economies worldwide. The hook here is in the interconnectedness of modern economies. A strategic military action in a narrow stretch of water can alter the cost of living and industrial productivity thousands of miles away. This is not theoretical. The global economy has already witnessed similar impacts from maritime disruptions, and Yemen's strike adds a new layer of complexity to the security of energy routes. This incident also underscores how vulnerable global trade is to asymmetric warfare. Unlike traditional naval engagements, where conflict is predictable and localized, drone strikes can occur suddenly, without warning, and with precision that makes traditional defenses less effective. This unpredictability creates instability, compelling global shipping to rethink operational risk. The hook here is unsettling. Economic stability today depends on secure maritime corridors, and these corridors are no longer immune to asymmetric threats. This transforms a military incident into an economic crisis in real time. The strike also raises questions about the adequacy of international mechanisms to secure vital trade routes. Maritime security has traditionally been enforced through the presence of naval forces, coordinated patrols, and international agreements. Yemen's strike challenges these assumptions. It shows that even heavily monitored waters are vulnerable to innovative tactics and that protecting the flow of trade requires more than traditional deterrence. This leads to the hook that may redefine policy. Global commerce now depends not only on military power, but on technology, intelligence, sharing, and cooperative security frameworks that adapt to evolving threats. There is also a psychological element to the economic implications. In global markets, perception is as powerful as reality. A single high-profile strike in a strategic waterway can instill uncertainty and risk aversion, leading to shifts in shipping routes, investment decisions, and trade partnerships. The hook here is in the ripple of perception. Yemen's drone strike is not only a physical disruption, but a psychological one, altering the calculations of traders, investors, and policymakers worldwide. This incident highlights that modern warfare impacts not only the tangible assets at sea, but the confidence and stability of global systems. Finally, the economic consequences of Yemen's drone strike emphasize the interconnected nature of today's world. The attack has implications for military strategy, political alignment, and economic stability. The hook lies in the scale of these implications. What began as a targeted act of warfare in a regional conflict now challenges global trade security, energy stability, and the predictability of maritime commerce. This incident forces nations and global institutions to reassess how they secure not only their borders, but the economic lifelines that sustain the modern world. Yemen's drone strike against an Israeli vessel marks a turning point that demands nations rethink their strategic approach to maritime defense. The incident is not an isolated act of hostility, but a signal of a deeper transformation in the nature of modern warfare. For decades, Naval power was defined by scale, technology, and the capacity to project force through large fleets and advanced warships. Yemen's strike challenges that paradigm, showing that in the age of drones and precision technology, asymmetric tactics can achieve strategic effects that rival the might of conventional forces. This shift compels every nation that depends on maritime security to ask difficult questions about preparedness, adaptability, and resilience. The hook here is in the disruption of long held assumptions. A single act can redefine an entire era of naval strategy. The broader implication is that modern conflict no longer unfolds on a static battlefield. Yemen's drone strike illustrates that warfare today is dynamic, dispersed, and unpredictable. The rules of engagement are changing. Naval defense can no longer rely solely on presence and deterrence. It must incorporate technological innovation, intelligence integration, and rapid adaptability. This means nations must think beyond traditional fleet deployment and consider how emerging technologies, including drones, artificial intelligence, and electronic warfare, can be integrated into defensive systems. The hook lies in the urgency. Yemen's operation is a warning that without such adaptation, established naval powers risk losing their advantage. The incident also raises a critical point about vulnerability. Drone technology makes precision attacks possible from a distance with minimal warning and reduced risk to the attacker. This erodes the traditional buffer that large navies have relied on, the idea that superior power, scale, and surveillance can deter attacks. Yemen's strike exposed a gap in maritime defense. A high-value target can be struck not through force of numbers, but through innovation and surprise. The hook here is unsettling. No navy, no matter how powerful, is immune to such tactics unless it fundamentally rethinks its defense strategies. This reality forces a evaluation of what it means to control the seas in the 21st century. Another critical aspect is that this incident demonstrates the increasing democratization of advanced military technology. Once the preserve of the most powerful nations, drone technology is now accessible to smaller states and even non-state actors. Yemen's ability to execute such an operation underscores how technology has leveled the playing field, allowing actors with fewer resources to project power in highly strategic ways. The hook lies in the implications of this democratization. As more actors gain access to these capabilities, the frequency and scope of such asymmetric strikes are likely to grow. Maritime conflict will increasingly involve unpredictable threats, requiring a fundamental shift in naval doctrine. This leads to another strategic challenge: adapting defensive frameworks. Yemen's strike signals that traditional methods of naval security, large fleets, stationary patrols, and fixed defenses are no longer sufficient. Modern defense must be proactive, adaptive, and technology driven. Nations must invest in advanced detection systems, rapid response units, cyber defenses, and international intelligence cooperation. The hook here is in the scale of change required. Maritime security in this new era demands not just upgraded technology, but a rethinking of strategy, policy, and alliances. Yemen's action serves as a case study in why this shift is no longer optional, but essential. Finally, Yemen's drone strike forces a broader strategic question: how should nations prepare for a future in which asymmetric warfare becomes the norm? This is not simply a matter of responding to one incident. It is about anticipating a fundamental change in the way conflicts are fought. The hook lies in the lesson this strike delivers: the age of uncontested naval dominance is over. Maritime strategy must now embrace agility, intelligence, and innovation to counter threats that emerge without warning and operate in ways that defy traditional paradigms. Yemen's action is a warning and a lesson. The future of naval power will depend on the ability to adapt quickly to new realities where technology levels the field and where the balance of power can be altered in a single decisive strike. So, what should we take away from this? Yemen's drone strike against an Israeli vessel is not an isolated incident. It is part of a larger transformation in the nature of conflict and power. It tells us that technology is leveling the playing field in ways that challenge traditional military hierarchies. It warns us that maritime security, economic stability, and international relations are interconnected more than ever before. And it demands a reassessment of how we think about warfare in the 21st century. Ladies and gentlemen, we are witnessing a moment that will define the future of naval warfare and global politics. And we must pay close attention because what happened here is just the beginning